4 days. That's how long it's been since a gunman opened fire at Brown University, killing 2 students, injuring 9 more, and we still do not have a single suspect in custody. But here's what we do have. An Ivy League university scrubbing its entire website of a Palestinian activist student, blocking journalists who ask questions, and a police department that seems more interested in managing narratives than catching a killer. And the story they're not telling you is worse than you think. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your patron professor, here to help you make sense of the madness as the far left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age that you're making happen all over the world. So if you want a front row seat on how you're changing the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. December 13th, 4:05 p.m., a masked gunman walked into room 166 at the Barris and Holly Engineering Building, a 186-seat lecture hall, first floor. 21 students were attending a review session for Professor Rachel Friedberg's introductory economics final. The shooter didn't say a word. He just started pulling the trigger. 11 rounds found their targets. 2 students didn't make it out. The first victim was Ella Cook, 19, from Birmingham, Alabama. She was vice president of Brown's College Republicans, a parishioner at the Cathedral Church of the Advent, and by all accounts, exactly the kind of young conservative leader this country needs more of. The second was Muhammad Aziz Amirzakov, 18, from Brandermill, Virginia. His family immigrated from Uzbekistan when he was just a child. He was majoring in biochemistry and neuroscience. Now, initial police reports claimed the suspect was in custody at 4:50 p.m. However, they retracted that 20 minutes later. Then they sent out an alert about gunfire near Governor Street at around 5:30 p.m., only to call it unfounded by 6. The confusion wasn't accidental. The more we're learning, the more we're finding out it was institutional panic. We are now on day 4 of the largest manhunt in Rhode Island history. The FBI is offering $50,000 for information leading to an arrest. Over 200 tips have poured in. Nearly 100 are still being actively investigated. And yet, despite that, authorities have yet to name a single suspect. They have yet to identify a motive. They have yet to explain why a person who was surveilling the area for 6 hours left 0 forensic evidence. Oh, to that end, that snowstorm that hit Saturday night, it destroyed any chance of collecting fingerprints or DNA from outdoor scenes, almost like the shooter knew the effects of the forecast. But now we've got breaking news that appears to be taking this institutional panic to an entirely new level. While the FBI was canvassing Providence, social media noticed something strange. A first-year student by the name of Mustafa Karabuch had vanished from Brown's website. Not just his profile, we're talking every mention of him, every article, every trace. According to reports, Karabuch is a third-generation Palestinian refugee from Lebanon, studying international affairs and anthropology with a focus on the Middle East. His now-deleted profile described him as a community organizer who attended United World College Maastricht on scholarship and helped with community building initiatives and social change roles. Within hours of the shooting, his digital footprint was systematically erased. When the conservative X account End Wokeness posted screenshots asking why, Brown University blocked him. Not responded, blocked. When Laura Loomer claimed she found a YouTube account under the same name featuring Islamic videos about electronic devices, the questions multiplied. And when the incredibly incompetent president of Brown University was asked about all this, she gave a comparably incompetent answer.
Shooting, I believe some web pages for students or faculty have been taken down. Is that a response to any external threats to anyone in the community?
We have been working very closely with law enforcement to provide them with all of the internal to Brown information that they need to do this investigation. It's their investigation. They're the professionals. So we're providing information. We're not in the job of reviewing it for them. I know nothing about web pages being taken down as part of this. It's the first I've heard of it.
In the back. Yep.
Now, Brown did finally issue a statement, but it wasn't an explanation. It was a condemnation. They claimed they were protecting a community member from harmful doxing activity and called the speculation irresponsible, harmful, and in some cases dangerous. They said it was not unusual as a safety measure to scrub someone's existence when this kind of activity happens. Oh, okay. Now, unfortunately, blaming the investigators has become standard operating procedure of late for the left wing. We saw this most recently when the roof got blown off the Minneapolis corruption in the Somali community there. The more investigators probed, the more they were overtly accused of racism and xenophobia. So these politically correct monikers often serve as convenient veneers for cloaking nefarious activity. But no one's buying it. The questions continue. Why the scrubbing? Why the blocking? Why, when a killer roams free, does an Ivy League institution dedicate resources to deleting records instead of demanding transparency? Well, as it turns out, the more we learn, the more we're finding out that these questions are revealing a pattern, a very disturbing pattern, with Brown University itself at the heart of it. But first, gang, do you ever wonder how people like Nancy Pelosi seem to know exactly when to buy certain stocks? How politicians seem to have secret knowledge of what's going to do well in the market? Well, it's all insider trading. Pelosi and her cronies have been getting away with it for years. But guess what? You and I actually have access to that very same inside information. Thanks to a little-known SEC loophole, we can actually track what the big corporate CEOs are buying up in real time, and then we could just ride their coattails into financial success, legally and ethically. Once you learn the secret of the trade, you're in. Now, to do that, you have to join me along with my good friend and trading expert, Ross Givens, this Thursday, December 18th, at 3 p.m. Eastern. Ross is the real deal. His insider tips have led to returns of over 200%, with some is hitting nearly as high as 1,500%. It's going to be huge, but seats are limited. Click the link below and snag one of the remaining online seats. It's going to change your life, gang. You can't afford to miss it. Meet Colonel Oscar Perez, the man overseeing the most high-profile manhunt in Rhode Island history and the epicenter of a brand new DEI controversy. Perez was appointed Providence Police Chief back in February 2023, but apparently not because he was the single most qualified investigator, but rather because he checked all the right identity politics boxes. Mayor Brett Smiley explicitly celebrated Perez as the first Latino police chief in the department's history. The press release emphasized his Colombian immigrant background, not his crime-solving credentials. And his background? Community relations, youth services, district command in South Providence. He holds degrees in administration of justice and criminal justice. But his career has been defined by building bridges, not by breaking cases. In his first year, he focused on diversifying the force, lamenting that 62% of his officers are white in a majority-minority city. And he created a community relations bureau and emphasized cultural competency training. All fine qualities until you actually need to catch a mass shooter. Now, Perez faces the investigation of his career. A masked gunman who executed 2 students in broad daylight, left 0 forensic evidence, and vanished into a snowstorm. And his response? Releasing vague surveillance footage, requesting the public check their doorbell cameras, and holding press conferences that offer more condolences than concrete updates, half of which, by the way, are in Spanish. But it gets worse. We're now finding out just how far left extremist Brown University actually is. Their professor of Palestinian studies, Bashara B. Doumani, previously served as president of Birzeit University in the West Bank from 2021 to 2023. Now, according to Data Republican, Birzeit is not some neutral peaceful liberal arts campus. It's heavily funded by far left-wing NGOs and functions as a de facto hub for the Hamas Student Solidarity Network. In fact, a number of Birzeit students have been arrested over the years in connection with terror activity and plots. The ties are so concerning that Harvard University actually had to cut research ties with that Middle Eastern university. So ask yourself, in what universe is it normal for an Ivy League university's Palestinian Studies chair to have just finished running a campus with documented links to Hamas-aligned activism and students wrapped up in terrorism cases? I mean, Frank, if someone dragged you to a Vegas sports book and forced you to wager on whether Professor Doumani has ever been involved with or adjacent to extremist networks, would you confidently slam down your money as an absolute no? So this is the deeper point here. Ivy League is no longer a guarantee of moral seriousness or intellectual merit. It's become, in many cases, a branding shield for radicalism dressed up as scholarship. Let's be blunt. Brown University officials are covering up what happened. Now, that cover-up most certainly could be the result of their dithering incompetence. Incompetence covers. And the very first victim of identity politics DEI initiatives is, of course, competence, since competence is no longer the primary qualification for career promotion. But regardless, this investigation thus far has been a DEI nightmare. And when all is said and done, the real victim here may be the shattered reputations of Ivy League institutions themselves. If you love seeing faith, family, and freedom winning again, you'll love Turley Clips. These are short, uplifting highlights from our show filled with stories of renewal, courage, and hope that prove a new conservative age is rising every single day. Subscribe to Turley Clips today and stay inspired, encouraged, and connected to a movement that's building a brighter future.